third and final Grand Tour of the year is now just around the corner, the Vuelta a España, and where better to do our preview show than there's an authentic tapas bar in the heart of Bristol called Brava's. This will be the 69th edition of the race, and it will start on Saturday the 23rd of August in Jerez de la Frontera, home of sherry, any excuse. And it will finish, of course, 3 weeks later in Santiago de Compostela.
So the 2014 route is 3,181.5 kilometres long, but despite 8 mountain finishes, it is actually considered easier than previous years. There are still a further 5 hilly or mountainous stages, 2 individual time trials and 1 team time trial, which leaves just 5 stages for the sprinters to contest.
And the race actually does finish with an individual time trial, albeit a short one, which means that all of the riders will have to race right through to the last day, and they won't, unfortunately for them, have their traditional procession. Any excuse? Now, in the Vuelta's early days, it used to take place in the spring before any of the other Grand Tours. However, since it's been moved to the late summer or even early autumn, it's typically played second or even third fiddle to the other 2 Grand Tours, of course, the Tour de France and the Giro d'Italia. However, speculation is rife this year that it could be the best Grand Tour of them all, and there's good reason for that.
Absolutely. This is possibly going to be the most hotly contested race of the year, and that's partly because of the misfortune of certain riders in the Tour de France. So, for example, Chris Froome and Andrew Talansky, both riders crashed out of the Tour. They are potentially going to be lining up at this race, along with Alberto Contador, potentially.
Maybe, yeah, and of course we've also got the entire Giro d'Italia podium from this year, which is Nairo Quintana, his compatriot Rigoberto Urán, and of course the young Italian Fabio Aru from the Astana team.
The 2 big Spanish favourites, Joaquin Rodriguez and Alejandro Valverde, will also be there, despite having just finished the Tour de France just a few weeks ago, alongside the 3rd place finisher from the Tour de France, which is Thibaut Pinot, Française des Jeux.
We've also, of course, got Dan Martin, Wilco Kelderman and Cadel Evans, who will be lining up with no doubt lofty ambitions, and maybe, just maybe even Carlos Betancourt, if his team can find him somewhere in Colombia.
With a mullet like that, though, they can surely track him down pretty easily.
Well, they've got Google Earth in France, haven't they? They must be able to use that.
Yeah. And despite all that GC chat, we still actually haven't got to last year's winner, Chris Horner of Lamprey. Now, he's showing pretty much exactly the same form he had last year, going on his performance at the Tour of Utah, where he finished 2nd just the other day. So, Dan, given that lineup, who do you think is going to be coming out on top?
Well, everyone always says, of course, that it's the riders that make the race, and when you read out that list of riders, there are a phenomenal number of top-level performing GC riders. I think it will be a cracking race if we get them there on form. Chris Froome, well, you'd hope that he'd be motivated for it. And we saw the big battle between he and Nairo Quintana last year on the climbs of the Tour de France. Nairo's, of course, still young, so he's 1 year older now than last year, proved himself at the Giro d'Italia. I think we could have a big fight between those 2. And there have even been rumours, we're not entirely sure as we shoot this whether Contador will be on the start line, but there were rumours that he was training much before his team actually said he was after his injury at the Tour.
Yeah, but it has to be said, though, that crashing out of the Tour de France is by no means going to get you to the Vuelta in good form. You know, not to mention the psychological come down of you know, not making your big objective of the year. So there's no certainty that Chris Froome is going to be pinging. But if he is, potentially, who's going to win a straight fight, him or Quintana?
Well, that's the big question, and I guess we'll have to wait until the race to actually find out. But it's not just the GC riders who are going to be the big names in the race. We've also got Mark Cavendish, potentially, if he goes well at the upcoming Tour de l'Ain. His team have said they will put him in, so he'll be the big name sprinter. And he's, of course, another rider who's looking to make up for a disastrous Tour de France where he crashed out, of course, on stage 1.
Yeah, Peter Sagan is also down for this one, but hopefully he's going to actually win something. That's possibly a bit harsh.
Possibly people said that about us.
Yeah, it's true. And I said it about Nibali as well. Anyway, there we go.
Yeah, and look how he answered you.
Yeah. Go on, Peter, win something.
So we've mentioned the possible inclusion from Omega Pharma Quickstep of Mark Cavendish, but Si, who will be his main competitors when it comes to the flat stages if he's there?
Well, it's pretty tasty as well, actually. So Nasser Bouhanni of Française des Jeux will be there, and I'm really pleased actually to see him there. So he won several stages at the Giro this year, but he is leaving Française des Jeux at the end of the year for Cofidis. And often when a rider does that, the team, they pretty much flip them, don't they, at the end of the season to give the UCI points and the opportunity to another rider who's staying with the team. So props to Française des Jeux for putting him in the Vuelta. John Degenkolb from Giant Shimano will also be there. Tom Boonen, so Cam's teammate, so he's not going to be competing against him, but another tasty sprinter if the opportunity arises.
Oh, thanks very much.
Cheers. Thanks. Yeah, I'm good for that one. Cheers. So those are the big name riders. Dan, what are they going to be facing?
Well, I think we've already mentioned that the race is bookended with time trials. It opens with a 12.6 kilometre team time trial and finishes with a 9.7 kilometre individual time trial at the end. Sandwiched between, though, is a much longer, I think 35 kilometres individual time trial. We've also got 5 flat days, we've got 13 mountainous days, 8 mountaintop finishes, and incredibly 40 classified climbs throughout the race.
Now, as we mentioned at the top of the show, the race starts in Jerez de la Frontera, which is right down the southernmost tip of Spain. Now, it's in the Andalusian region, and at that time of year, it can be pretty inhospitable with temperatures in the high 30s. And that's centigrade. For you Americans out there, they're not actually going to be contesting the snow. It's mainly going to be the sprinters fighting it out down there. They'll be contesting stages 2, 4, 5, and 7.
And actually the first hilltop finish comes early on stage 5. Now it might only be 5 kilometres long, but it should give us a good idea of who's going well for the GC. It certainly did last year, and either way it's going to show us who doesn't have the legs for the GC this year.
And from Andalusia, the race starts to move northeast up through the country for stages 8 and 9. Both of them relatively nondescript, and there's some pretty hefty transfers in there as well. Now when it gets up to stage 10, we should probably get some new drinks actually, Dan, because it goes to the Rioja region, which is famous for excellent wines. Should we get some more?
Yeah, go on then.
We'll have some more.
Go on.
Can we cut that?
We think that one of the crucial points of this year's race for the GC could be a trio of stages, 14, 15 and 16. All of them finish at the top of mountains, and one of those is the Lagos de Covadonga, which is 16 k's long with an average gradient of 7.4%.
Now from there, the race then moves over to Galicia, which is why Dan's now moved on to beer.
Any excuse?
And stage 20 presents possibly the last opportunity to win the race. It's the final summit finish. Although stage 21 is that individual time trial, they're only 9.4 kilometres long. Unless the race is super tight at that point, it's unlikely that the race is going to be won or lost there.
Now, interestingly, the Vuelta has reintroduced time bonuses this year, which could play into the hands of the punchy climbers, but quite a few spring to mind immediately when we talk about the people that we've already mentioned. Chris Froome, Nairo Quintana, Joaquim Rodriguez and Alejandro Valverde are all known for their punchiness at the top of climbs.
So we've talked about the GC riders to watch, but there's also going to be a whole host of other riders that are potentially going to be winning stages. Jens Debusschere, for one, the Lotto Belisol sprinter, who's also the Belgian champion. In the absence of teammate Andre Greipel, he's going to be given carte blanche to go for the sprints.
Yeah, and Francis Gilles, they had a great Tour de France this year, but they also had a fantastic Vuelta this time last year. 2 stage winners, Elias Sonda and Geniers, both on mountaintop finishes, and both of them will return this year. A year wiser, a year stronger. We used to say they can't repeat.
Yeah, I think Rowan Dennis is worth a mention. He's made the fairly unique move mid-season from Garmin Sharp to BMC, but a change of team, he's going to be incredibly motivated, and he's a very, very talented lad.
British neo-pro Simon Yates made his Grand Tour debut for Orica Green Edge at the Tour de France, but his twin brother Adam will do the same thing here at the Vuelta. He of course won the Tour of Turkey, but he also did amazingly strong performances at both the Criterium de Dauphiné and also the Tour of California, and who's to say that he can't take a stage win here?
I think his Orica Green Edge teammate, the young Colombian Esteban Chavez, is also worth a mention. He won a summit finish in the Tour of California and the Tour of Switzerland, so here the world's his oyster.
Yes, he's a part of the Colombian Renaissance, which we've seen a lot of over the last year or so, as is Julian Arredondo of Trek Factory Racing. Who can forget his attacking style at the Giro d'Italia this year, which led him in the end to the Mountains jersey and a stage win.
Finally, I think we have to mention MTN Quebecer, the African team that were riding their first Grand Tour. They've got some experienced guys there like Gerald Cholek and Linus Gerdeman, both of whom are more than capable of winning stages, but the whole squad is going to be super motivated, I think, to really... the whole squad is going to be super motivated there to really show they deserve their spot.
Yeah, I think there's some really promising youngsters there as well. We've got the South African champion Luis Meintjes, who was great at the under-23 Worlds last year, and also Mirari Kudus. Now, he did a great ride at the Tour of Langkawi this year. I think he finished second up that Genting Highlands stage, so he'll be at home on the climbs as well.
So this is probably the moment you've all been waiting for. GCN are renowned for our ultimate race predictions.
Mark Cavendish to take yellow in Harrogate.
Simon Gerrans will win stage 2 and take the yellow jersey with it.
Vincenzo Nibali is not going to make podium.
Listen to this and then rush down to the bookies and place the opposite bet. Dan, where's your money?
I'm actually going to predict that Nairo Quintana will win every single leader's jersey at the race. Now, before you scoff, Simon, if he does win overall, of course he'll take the young rider's jersey as well. And we saw last year, in fact the last few years, Chris Horner, and before that the previous winners of the race, were really right up there in the mountains competition and the points competition due to the nature of the stages. And there's a combinations jersey as well. If he's up there in every competition, he'd also take that.
That'd be quite a flash.
What about you?
I think that Vincenzo Nibali will not make the podium. I'm pretty confident.
Nice one, Si. Yeah.
No, in all seriousness, actually, I love Vincenzo Nibali, but I think actually this is going to be the breakthrough performance of Adam Yates. I was incredibly impressed with his ride at San Sebastian, and I think that he's going to make the top 10 overall and potentially win a stage.
Now, I'm sure that you're all very disappointed that Matt Stevens couldn't make it here, even though we're not, but we have him here on the phone. Matt, what are your predictions?
Hello and cheers, or bonjour, or santé from France. I'm sorry I can't be with you for the Vuelta preview show because I'm here in France, as you can see, on a very serious training camp, looking after my form for the latter part of the season. Detailed bit of reviewing I've done. So I think Chris Froome is going to win the GC overall. Quintana is going to be second. I think Rigoberto Urán is going to round out the podium in third. Joaquin Rodriguez, I think, is going to be fourth on general classification, taking a stage en route. Defending champion Chris Horner, I think, is going to be around fifth, and Andrew Talansky, I think, will be sixth.
Well, typically concise as ever. Thanks, Matt.
Once again, GCN will be present at the race, so if there's anything in particular you'd like us to film, please let us know in the comments section down below.
Right, thank you very much for joining us. Enjoy the race.
Any excuse?
Any excuse?
Any excuse?
Any excuse?
I just really hope that Adam Yates, comes good. Like, I've stuck my neck out again. Don't like sticking my neck out, especially not having broken
You saw
it.
what happened last time.
Exactly,
You had
yeah.
to wear that bloody brace, didn't you, for
Terrible.
a couple of months?
Absolutely terrible. But then, having said that, it's quite a bold shout about Quintana.
Yeah, I was kind of joking really, but, you know.
Joking, but you've actually put a bet on it.
Yeah, but I can lay it off. You know.
Yeah.
For more GCN top 10s, click here.
And if you haven't yet subscribed, simply click on Matt. You know it makes sense.